Anaya was born in a small, dusty town where the air always seemed heavy with heat and whispers. From the very beginning, life taught her that dreams were fragile things, easily shattered by circumstance. Her father, a man once full of laughter and plans, had vanished when she was only 12. The reason was never clear: arguments, debts, or simply a desire to escape, but his absence left a void that no lullaby or hug could fill. Her mother, a quiet but fierce woman, took on the impossible task of raising her alone. 2 jobs, endless chores, and sleepless nights were her constant companions. Yet she never complained, always insisting that Anaya's dreams mattered more than her own exhaustion. And so Anaya grew up with 2 truths etched into her young mind. 1, that life could be cruel, and 2, that hope was a small, stubborn flame worth holding on to. School was a battlefield, not because of the subjects or exams, but because of the whispers and glances. Children can be cruel, more cruel than adults sometimes, and Anaya was an easy target. She was bright but quiet. She didn't have the newest shoes nor the latest gadgets, and so she became a subject of ridicule. Yet in her solitude she found companions in books, stories of heroes and healers, of people who rose despite the world pushing them down. She began to dream not of riches or fame, but of purpose. She wanted to heal, to care, to make life less cruel for others, even if it remained harsh for her. By the age of 15, Anaya realized that survival required work. She started helping her mother after school and eventually found a small job at a cafe. Her hands, though young, learned to carry trays, serve coffee, and smile politely at people who sometimes ignored her existence. Every coin she earned went into a small jar tucked under her bed, a jar that represented a future only she could see. It was meant for nursing school, for tuition, for a life she hoped would be free from constant struggle. But life, as it often does, tested her in ways she could not prepare for. One rainy evening, returning from the cafe, she saw an elderly neighbor slip on the wet pavement. Without thinking, she ran, catching him just before his head struck the concrete. He smiled, embarrassed but grateful. That moment gave her a taste of purpose. It was fleeting, yet intoxicating. She realized that even in her own struggles, she could be a lifeline for someone else. Yet the small town's eyes were never kind. A minor mistake, a misinterpreted action, a whispered lie, any of these could spread and grow into a storm. At 16, she was accused of something she hadn't done, a missing wallet at school. Though the truth eventually surfaced, the rumor lingered like smoke that refuses to dissipate. She learned a painful lesson early. Innocence does not always protect you from judgment, and truth is often powerless against the cruelty of assumption. Her relationship with her mother, though strong, was tested daily. The exhaustion in her mother's eyes sometimes turned to sharp words. "Be careful, Anaya. The world isn't kind to girls like you," she would warn. And Anaya learned to be cautious, yet she refused to shrink entirely. She helped younger children in her neighborhood with their homework, tended to sick animals, and volunteered at local clinics whenever she could. In her small acts, she found meaning and defiance against a world that constantly judged her before even knowing her. One of her most cherished moments came at 17. A new teacher noticed her diligence and invited her to join a youth health program. There, Anaya learned first aid, basic medical care, and the responsibility of empathy. It was the first time she felt recognized for who she was, not just where she came from or the rumors surrounding her. She made friends, real friends, who saw her as more than a quiet, poor girl. For the first time, she imagined a future where her name was not whispered in suspicion, but spoken with respect. Yet, the shadows of doubt and accusation never fully left her. Even at home, people would sometimes mistake her quiet confidence for arrogance, her caution for guilt. And so she built a fortress inside herself, walls made of resilience, patience, and an unshakable belief that one day the world would see the truth of her heart. By the time she turned 18, Anaya was no longer just a girl surviving. She was a young woman shaped by hardship, determination, and quiet heroism. She had learned to stand up even when everyone else turned away, to find light even when surrounded by darkness. Little did she know that her true trial was just beginning, that life's accusations were about to come faster and harsher than she could imagine. And yet, in her heart, a single stubborn flame of hope continued to burn, stronger than any rumor, any betrayal, or any storm the world could throw at her. The sun hung low in the sky, painting the streets with a soft orange glow. Anaya was walking home from the cafe, tired but content. The day had been long, but she felt a quiet pride in her heart. She had saved every coin, helped a struggling customer, and even shared a smile with the elderly man who ran the small grocery next door. Then, without warning, life decided to test her again. A boy from her school, someone she barely knew, stumbled near the park as she passed by. His face was pale, his lips slightly blue. Something about him screamed panic. Without thinking, Anna ran to his side. "Hey, are you okay? Can you hear me?" she asked, her voice steady despite the pounding of her own heart. He coughed weakly, his hand reaching for hers. She held it firmly, feeling the tremors run through him. Pulling out her phone, she called an ambulance, speaking quickly and clearly, giving directions, explaining his condition. As she waited with him, she whispered words of encouragement. "You're going to be okay. Don't close your eyes. Help is coming. I'm right here." The ambulance arrived within minutes, but the world around her began to shift. What should have been a moment of quiet heroism turned into the first wave of judgment. By the next morning, rumors had spread like wildfire through the school and the town. People whispered behind her back, some claiming she had pushed him or scared him intentionally. Others invented stories about her motives, twisting a simple act of kindness into something sinister. Even friends she thought she could trust avoided her, exchanging glances filled with suspicion and doubt. At the cafe, customers treated her differently. Some left before she could reach their table. Others gave her cautious smiles, as if her very presence were contagious. The whispers followed her home, and the deepest wound came from her own mother's voice, quiet but heavy. "Anaya, tell me it's not true, please." That moment pierced her soul. "When even your closest ally doubts you, where do you turn?" Days passed, and the accusations only grew stronger. A week later, money went missing from the school locker room. Because Anaya had been seen there earlier that day, suspicion immediately fell on her. She tried to explain. Her sweater had been left behind, that was all. But no one listened. The word thief clung to her like a shadow. The boy whose life she had saved did not come forward. Fear had silenced him. And so Anaya found herself completely alone, trapped under the weight of false accusations. Nights were the hardest. She would stare at the ceiling, tears falling quietly, thinking, "Why does life punish me for being kind? Why am I always the one to be blamed?" Yet amid the darkness, a spark of resilience flickered. She remembered the boy's eyes before he collapsed, the trust, the fleeting relief when he felt her hand in his. That memory became her anchor. She realized that her value did not depend on the town's judgment. She had done what was right. She had saved a life. That truth, no matter how silenced, was hers to hold. Slowly, the truth began to emerge. The boy's parents discovered that he had a medical condition he had hidden out of fear and embarrassment. He admitted that Anaya had saved his life, that nothing she did was wrong. And the missing money, a senior student eventually confessed. The lies that had threatened to destroy her finally started to unravel. But apologies never came. People moved on as if nothing had happened. And yet, through the pain, Anaya learned the first of life's great lessons. The world may judge you unfairly, but your inner truth and strength remain untouchable. She began to see that her scars were not symbols of defeat, but of survival. By the end of this chapter of her life, Anaya was no longer just the quiet girl who had been accused. She was a young woman forged in trials, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. She realized that even when the world turns against you, you can rise. And with that realization, she began to plan for the next stage of her journey, one where she would reclaim her narrative, turn her pain into purpose, and prove to herself, above all else, that she was unbreakable. The days after the truth emerged were quiet, but the silence was heavy. The town no longer whispered about Anaya, yet the echoes of judgment remained in her mind. People moved on quickly, but she could not. She carried the weight of loneliness, the betrayal of friends who had abandoned her, and the moments when even her own mother had doubted her. Yet in that silence, Anaya discovered something she hadn't realized before. She had survived. She had endured more than many could imagine and had come out stronger. The fire that life had tried to extinguish was still burning inside her, stronger and fiercer than ever. Anaya began to pour her energy into her passion. She spent hours volunteering at the local clinic, helping nurses and learning new skills. She tutored younger children, teaching them lessons not only about reading and math, but about courage, resilience, and self-belief. Every act of service became a small rebellion against the injustice she had faced. She realized that the more she helped others, the more she healed herself. One evening, while browsing the internet at the cafe, Anaya discovered a scholarship program for young women who had faced adversity and demonstrated resilience. Her heart raced. This was more than an opportunity for education. It was a chance to tell her story, to turn her suffering into something meaningful. She began writing her application essay, not just as a plea for help, but as a declaration of her journey. Her essay, titled Accused by Life, My Untold Story, poured out her experiences, the pain of false accusations, the nights of loneliness, the whispers that cut deeper than knives, and the moments of quiet courage that had defined her character. She wrote about saving a life, facing betrayal, and standing tall when everyone else had turned away. But most importantly, she wrote about hope, the flame that refused to die even in the darkest nights. Submitting the essay felt like stepping into an arena with no guarantee of victory, but Anaya had learned something invaluable from her trials. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. She sent her application and waited, not knowing if anyone would see the truth in her words. Weeks later, the response came. She had been awarded the scholarship. Tears blurred her vision as she read the letter. The selection committee had recognized not just a girl who had faced hardship, but a young woman with extraordinary resilience, compassion, and potential. They saw a future healer, a beacon of hope, someone who could take her pain and turn it into purpose. For the first time in years, Anaya felt truly free. She had survived life's harshest judgments, and now she had a chance to shape her destiny. She realized that her scars, once symbols of suffering, were now proof of strength. They told a story of survival, courage, and unwavering spirit. Her mother watched with pride as Anaya packed her bags for the new chapter in her life. No words could capture the emotions between them: love, relief, and unspoken understanding. Anaya had proved, first and foremost to herself, that she was unbreakable. And so, at 18, accused by life but not defeated by it, Anaya stepped into a future full of promise. Her story became more than personal triumph. It became a lesson for anyone listening. Life will challenge you, test you, and sometimes accuse you unfairly. People may doubt you, betray you, or leave you to struggle alone. But your inner strength, your courage, and your belief in yourself are unstoppable. Anaya's journey reminds us all that even when the world judges you harshly, your truth and resilience define your destiny. And sometimes, the very trials that seem to break us are the ones that shape us into the people we are meant to become. Anaya arrived at her new school for nursing with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The campus was bustling with students, lectures, and new faces, all so different from the small town she had grown up in. For the first time, she felt a sense of belonging, not because people whispered her name, but because she was there to learn, to grow, and to fulfill the dreams she had held on to for so long. The first few weeks were intimidating. Lectures were fast, skills were complicated, and the city's life moved at a pace she had never experienced. Yet every morning she reminded herself of the nights she had cried alone, the judgment she had endured, and the courage it had taken to rise again. Those memories became fuel, pushing her to work harder, stay longer in the labs, and volunteer for extra clinical shifts. Despite her dedication, challenges were inevitable. Some classmates judged her background, whispering about her small-town roots or lack of experience. At first it stung, reopening old wounds, but Anaya had learned a valuable lesson. Not everyone will support you, but that does not diminish your value. She focused on her skills, her compassion, and her determination, letting her actions speak louder than words. Slowly, respect began to replace skepticism. Professors noticed her dedication, and patients responded to her gentle care. One day, during a practical session in the hospital, Anaya was assigned to assist a patient who had just undergone major surgery. The patient was anxious, scared, and in pain. Most students followed instructions mechanically, but Anaya took a moment to sit beside the patient, hold their hand, and speak in calming tones. "You're stronger than you think. I'm here with you," she whispered. The patient smiled through tears, and the supervising nurse later praised her. "Not just technical skills, Anna. Your empathy is remarkable." These small victories strengthened her belief that her purpose extended beyond exams and certificates. She realized that her greatest gift was not just knowledge, but the ability to heal hearts while treating bodies. Even as she flourished, life continued to test her resolve. At one point, she faced a medical error, though not her fault, which caused a patient to suffer minor complications. Though she had followed instructions perfectly, the blame initially fell on her. The old fear returned, whispers, doubts, and self-questioning. But this time, Anaya handled it differently. She calmly explained the sequence of events, consulted her supervisors, and worked tirelessly to rectify the situation. Her integrity and composure turned the challenge into a testament to her professionalism and resilience. Outside of academics, Anaya began mentoring younger students and participating in community health programs. She organized workshops on hygiene, basic first aid, and self-care, often returning to her hometown on weekends to educate children and families who had limited access to health care. Through these acts, her story began to spread, not as a tale of scandal or rumor, but as one of inspiration and courage. She also began writing blogs and recording short videos about her experiences, sharing lessons about resilience, self-belief, and the importance of empathy. Thousands began to follow her journey online, inspired by a girl who had been judged unfairly by life, but had turned every setback into an opportunity to grow and help others. By the time she was nearing graduation, Anaya had transformed completely, not just into a skilled nurse, but into a symbol of hope for anyone facing adversity. Her past, once a source of shame and fear, had become the foundation of her purpose. She realized that her scars told a story far greater than any rumor ever could. They were proof that even when the world accuses you unfairly, you can rise, create impact, and inspire change. And so, Anaya stepped into her early career, not just as a healthcare professional, but as a mentor, an advocate, and a beacon of resilience. She had learned the ultimate lesson. Life may accuse, challenge, and even betray, but your courage, empathy, and determination define who you truly are. Her journey had only just begun. The trials of her youth had prepared her for a life of meaning, and the world she once feared was now a canvas for the impact she was determined to make. She carried her story forward, not as a tale of accusation, but as a living testament to the power of hope, perseverance, and unwavering belief in oneself. Years passed, but Anaya never forgot the girl she once was, the one who had walked home alone, heart heavy with whispers and false accusations. Those memories, once painful, had become her compass, guiding every decision, every step, and every act of kindness. She had learned that life may accuse unfairly, but the true measure of a person is not in the judgments they face, but in how they respond. By the time she completed her nursing degree, Anaya was no longer just a survivor. She had become a mentor, an advocate, and a beacon of hope for countless others. She worked tirelessly in hospitals, often volunteering in underprivileged communities, teaching children about health, hygiene, and self-care. Her story, shared online and in local seminars, inspired young people who had felt silenced, judged, or abandoned by the world. But her journey wasn't free of challenges. Even as a professional, she encountered skepticism. Colleagues underestimated her abilities, patients doubted her experience, and society occasionally reminded her of her past. Yet each time, Anaya faced these moments with grace and determination. She remembered the nights she cried alone, the moments she had felt powerless, and the small flame of hope that had never died. That flame had grown into a blazing fire, illuminating her path and inspiring others to rise alongside her. Anaya also realized the importance of speaking out, sharing her story to give strength to others. She wrote a memoir titled Accused by Life, the untold story of an 18-year-old girl, recounting her journey from isolation and accusation to resilience and triumph. The book became a source of guidance for students, parents, and anyone facing injustice or self-doubt. People wrote to her, sharing how her words had given them courage to face bullying, judgment, and life's unforeseen hardships. Through it all, she never allowed bitterness to take root. Her experiences had taught her empathy, patience, and compassion, the very qualities that made her a remarkable nurse and a trusted mentor. She understood that everyone faces battles unseen, that rumors and judgment can wound deeply, but kindness, resilience, and unwavering belief in oneself can heal and transform. One of Anaya's proudest moments came when she returned to her hometown to open a small community health center. It was modest, yet for the families and children who lacked access to basic health care, it was a beacon of hope. She trained young volunteers, taught workshops, and shared her story with everyone who would listen. The girl who had once been judged unfairly was now a guiding light, showing that adversity could become purpose and pain could become power. Anaya's journey had become more than personal triumph. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. She learned that life's accusations, though painful, do not define destiny. Strength is found in rising again and again, in turning suffering into compassion, and in inspiring others to believe in themselves. And so, Anaya's story concludes not with defeat, but with victory. She had transformed every scar into a lesson, every false accusation into a stepping stone, and every challenge into an opportunity to shine. She showed the world and reminded herself that life may judge you harshly, but your courage, heart, and determination are unstoppable.